Welcome to the KIPS Personal Training Application Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. We have a guest and a topic that every fit pro in 2020, 2021 has been talking about, needs to learn more about, and really brush up and make sure they're hitting these items with, and that's music licensing. We have Denise Imbesi. She is the owner of Muscle Mixes, and she's going to talk about all the items that I will constantly see on social media being asked. What are people using? What about licensing? What about synchronization? All these kind of topics are constantly being brought up, and I'll admit that I constantly see people that are breaking these items. So Denise, first, thank you for being our guest on the podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome, Tyler. It's a pleasure. Very excited to be here for you.
Thank you. So Denise, let's kick it off with a little background information because I personally enjoy music, all types of music. How did you kind of start Muscle Mixes and get into that area of the industry?
Well, this is going to be interesting. Back in 1988, when I was 3 years old. No, I'm kidding. When I was a fitness instructor and a DJ. My brother was a radio DJ, so he would come home with boxes of records. You know, they don't use them if they didn't use them or whatever. So I used to create some of the best fitness tapes, music tapes for my classes. And I was like, wow, this is great. And so I used to be a DJ because I was at a club one night and the DJ didn't show up. This is a really funny story. The DJ didn't show up and I said, hey, I'll try it. I'll do it. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing. And they loved it. And I started to learn. I took lessons on how to beat mix, using records and all that. And, this was really organic. I hate to overuse that word, but it was really organic the way it happened. I had no intention of starting a business. I was 25 years old, didn't know anything about business. And I just started creating tapes on the side for my fellow fitness instructors, and one thing led to the other, and it just blew up.
Nice. That's really a fun story to hear. And it's such a necessity that once you get going in the industry, if you're teaching or even thinking about if you're just a group instructor and where do I get my music? And especially if you're an independent, those are the items that you really need to think about and make sure you're crossing them off, because if you don't have music that people want to listen to or that gets them motivated, they might tune out. It's such a key element of group fitness and the industry these days.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Yeah. So next question in terms of big stuff. So when we're recording this, we're just wrapping up March 2021. And as the industry, I'll say things are in an interesting point that there's a little bit of shift going. Stuff is starting to open up even more. But yet virtual training is still very big. I own a company that does virtual training, but I will say that a lot of instructors move to that platform, that style. So with virtual workouts and making sure that you're crossing off those items, what would you say are the essentials that they should know when it comes to music licensing?
We only have 45 minutes.
I know, it's a big one.
I know, it's kidding. What I like to do when I have these conversations, Tyler, is I like to define certain words first so that we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So is that okay?
Please.
All right. So I like to use the term live stream for any type of workout that is virtual, where you see them as the instructor and the user, the participant, sees you. So it's a two-way street. That's live streaming. And then the other is on-demand workouts, where it's one way, where the participant sees you, but you're not there because it was already pre-recorded. So now we got those out of the way. And then, of course, the third category, I'm just going to put in its own category, which is social media, because it has different rules.
Yeah.
The reason why this has become an issue is this. The responsibility of licensing and paying for music was that of the physical location when you were teaching in person. Now that it's switched to virtual, the responsibility now becomes that of the individual instructor or the social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you move from in person to anything video or visual, the music industry completely changes to a different type of music licensing. It goes from a mechanical license to a synchronization license. I won't get into that too many details, but so for those just starting out, decide whether you're going to live stream or record, because that does make a difference on what you're able to use and not able to use when it comes to music.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the third option is social media. Social media has to be in its own group, because when you put your class on a social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, now that company is responsible to license and pay. Mm-hmm. So in person, it's the responsibilities of the physical location, the health club, the venue. When it's on demand or live streaming, it's the individual instructor's responsibility. But when you go on social media, it's clearly Facebook, Instagram, YouTube's responsibility. That's why they have the right to take you down if they want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From my experience with those, and I would say it's good. Now that YouTube, and this I feel like is a more recent item, they actually have an extra step when you're uploading a video. It's a pre-check. I think that's what they call it. They label it as, where essentially they check your whole video, the music for it, and make sure that there are no items with it. So in the past, they used to have it as once it was posted, if you had any copyright infringements, they would basically label it that, and they might pull it, or they might label it and you could dispute it if you do have the synchronization for it. But these days, they are taking those extra steps, and even though some organizations do go the route of that they do make you workouts specifically for a platform, at least some of these platforms are letting you know early, okay, that's not going to work for us. It's interesting that you mentioned, though, the social media, because I think some people get caught up with the fact that even background music, if they're doing a workout, sometimes it gets flagged for that. And I like how you mentioned that it's now on the platform to make sure that whoever is posting a video is making sure they're following the rules for it.
Yes. And on that, what you're saying about putting music at a low volume, I've heard we've heard a lot of myths and misconceptions. Mm-hmm. The biggest one I hear is, what if I put a disclaimer on the Facebook post that says?
That's my favorite one.
Isn't that the best one? Yeah. Unfortunately, that does not make it okay. Isn't that funny? It's funny. Somebody started it, and I guess they just kept doing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, even the one with the low volume. Now, I know somebody who used low volume during their class. They got taken down anyway, even if it's really low. It really just depends on if that content ID, that AI can automatically locate, because they make mistakes too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the biggest misconceptions. You're absolutely right.
I will say my joke with it, and I think I heard it, and I'm taking this from somebody, but it was like, it's if you were going to steal a car and say like, I don't own the rights to this car, but I'm letting you know just ahead of time that I don't own this car, but I'm still.
That is great. That's great. I love that. I got to use that.
It's the same thing. And in 2021, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, is now using not royalty-free music, is using royalty-free music, and is that the best way because they made a law regulation that it's now a federal offense for it?
That I've not heard of.
I've seen that one floating around. And that could be another myth to scare people for it, but I know that that's something that people have posted about, and I feel like on some groups, some people are like almost openly admitting that they're not using royalty-free music. Like, okay, what's your favorite playlist? Here's my playlist. And it's like, are you doing this at a gym or is this for your own platform? So it's one of those items that people really need to make sure that they're protecting themselves with. With the piece, now let's go back to the piece about synchronization, because that's a big one. From my experience, and as I've already mentioned, I own a company that does streaming, Time to Train Fitness. And as I grew that platform, I started to realize the importance of the on-demand workouts, and that's something that people look for. And even some companies that do quote unquote live workouts, sometimes it's a pre-recorded workout that they're just dropping at a certain time. They're just premiering at a certain time. Can you kind of explain the synchronization licensing? Because I think that that's the piece that people miss. They know about music licensing, but they don't know that final piece, the synchronization.
I see what you're saying. So I want to also always just say, give the disclaimer that I'm not an attorney, and that,
Yes.
if you want to be absolutely sure, please check with, your attorney.
Yes.
I am, I've been in the music industry 32 years, so I know quite a bit about it. And, and the other thing I want to say is it's evolving, because of COVID, the laws are evolving on a regular basis. So, but I just want to make sure you know that. So my attorney has told me that you are subject to a synchronization rights license when you are recording on demand or recorded videos. To my understanding, you are not subject to synchronization if you are live streaming and you do not press the record button. It's a little bit of a gray area. The live streaming one. We know for sure that you're subject to a public performance license when you play music in person. We know for sure that you're subject to synchronization. And synchronization, by the way, is just when you're syncing music with video. And it originated from film mostly, and commercials. Infomercials, commercial synchronization. And then, so public performance license is what the venue needs to acquire to play music in a public place. Synchronization license is for someone who records a video and either plays it, allows someone to access it on demand through streaming, or downloads it or puts it on a DVD. So the gray area that I've not been able to get a firm answer on is live streaming one and done. This does not, social media does not count. Okay. Because, in theory, you are live streaming like on social media. So let's get to that in a minute. But so for live streaming, it's a little gray still. I would speak to, if I'm a gym or I'm an instructor who works at a gym, I would speak to ASCAP BMI, one of the public performance, they call the pros, the public rights organizations, and speak to them about, is there some kind, I believe there's a media license or something. If you're just doing it one time, you're Tyler's teaching at 5:00 on Thursday, and then you don't record it. So synchronization only applies, to my understanding, when it comes to fitness, is when you're pressing the record button and syncing those two tracks together, video and music. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Something that is almost shocking to me is, so I have spoken to two of the big players with music, and I'm always surprised that they have not figured out a specific category for this, because it's essentially a whole industry. I don't want to say a whole, a majority of an industry started looking into this. And that's the fitness industry, fit pros that were trying to make a living when things shut down. And so I'm very surprised, because I'm not going to name the specific one, but essentially they're like, okay, we need to find out more information from you. We've had to talk with some people, but they don't have a specific answer.
Right.
And that's what's so alarming to me, because I feel like they could have, I don't want to say taken advantage of it, but they could have made it such an easier process for a lot of professionals that would have probably jumped at it. And I've seen people post comments along those lines. Why aren't bigger organizations stepping in to help us fit pros like this? Why aren't they figuring this out for us? And so it's very alarming in that, with trying to figure out the synchronization of it, the on demand. And the next question that is kind of a big one, because from what I understand, and this might just be a rumor, one of the big players out there in the at-home workouts, Peloton, that from what I understand and what I heard, again, could be a rumor, and I don't want to be, people message me about this, but I've heard that they're actually moving to make their own music because of a lot of the issues with getting the synchronization, getting licensing. And I know that they actually got dinged when they first started because they didn't have some of these licensing. What is your insights and what do you think's going to happen with that side of the industry moving forward? Do you think that it's become easier for fitness professionals?
Well, that's a really good question. And to address what you said earlier about why can't they make it easier, is because there are too many people involved in the process.
Yeah.
Any individual song has somebody who wrote the words, somebody who's published the song, somebody who performed the song, and then a company who represents it. And it's not always one person. Nowadays, in the year 2000s, the 2000s, there are 5, 6, 7 writers credits. Whereas back, in the 60s, it was Stevie Wonder and that's it. So it's very difficult. There's not one, when we say they, there is no they. There's not one place. This is different in other countries, but in the United States, that's the way it is. You have to go to each individual party and get permission. And that's why it's not so easy to just turn on and off. However, the good news is, I will say this, that we, Muscle Mixes, are working with some of the music organizations, the labels and the publishers, to try to come up with a solution. Because we believe, and I know I'll answer this question for you later, that hybrid workouts are here to stay. And in Peloton, they happen to be either at the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the right time, at the wrong time, because they got sued $300 million. But, but I think the record industry is, of course, interested in big numbers. So they wouldn't probably come in and, you mentioned the federal offense. I can't imagine them suing an individual instructor at Kentucky who plays one class and has one song, However, they're going to look at someone like a Peloton and say, wait a minute, that's a lot of content. And in their mind, they think, cha-ching, that's money lost for these individual artists. So now that they're seeing that there is money to be made, they're taking it more seriously. And I can tell you for sure that there are at least one label that we're in talks with that is very interested in reaching these instructors and helping. When we say the word help, they want to make some money on it. Obviously, they see it as a business opportunity. And I'm at the forefront, lobbying, so to speak, for instructors, because it just doesn't seem, I hate to use the word fair, but it doesn't make sense, really. Wouldn't you rather have your song promoted? And nowadays, women, especially my age, and men, I'm 57. I'm not going clubbing. I don't know about you, Tyler, but I'm not going clubbing. Where am I going to hear these songs? My daughter only wants to listen to the songs she wants to hear, on her Spotify playlist. I'm not going to. So, but if you go to a gym, you're going to hear the latest stuff, So it's a wonderful opportunity to promote music. So, so they're noticing that now. I don't know how long it's going to take. It may take months. It may take, I don't know, years. We're hoping to help with that. But in the meantime, I will tell you that we are continuing to produce royalty-free music. And we didn't talk about that yet, but royalty-free music is basically music we own 100%. So there's nobody else that you have to go to get permission or anything like that from. And we have, since the beginning, since last March, have said, we're going to make sure that this music is good and that people don't feel like they're settling. Oh, I have to settle for royalty free. We don't want that. We want Fit Pros to feel good about it. Even though it's not familiar, at least it motivates my class. It motivates my students. It motivates me, So that's what we're doing. We're continuing to grow that library and make it the best music possible.
That's good. That's great to hear. And I think from a virtual workout standpoint, and this, I have to also clarify that. So I'm the owner of one of these companies. And so dealing with the instructor, it's a very similar conversation where they might feel like they are settling for music that is not popular. And I've actually come across instructors that, I only use popular music. And it's like, well, you're making this a lot harder, and you're making this conversation into something that it's maybe going to take a couple extra steps for you, and you might be surprised. And that's, I feel like, the approach that instructors should take. That if they're like, oh, I don't want to go down there, it's, well, you're probably going to be really surprised that some of this music is. I was just listening to some yesterday, and I was like, oh, I like that. I dig this song. Oh, I dig this song. And just moving down the list.
Bad, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I can ride to this. I can, blast this. Okay, I'm gonna build this playlist. And so I think another myth to bring up, and if I don't know how much of a myth it is, some people believe that if it is not the original song, if it's a mixed song, then okay, that's royalty free. And I think that it's something to clarify. Is there some truth in there?
That's a great question. So there are royalty-free music, which is 100% owned by whoever's licensing it to you. For example, muscle mixes, right? And other fitness music companies or other royalty-free music companies. And then there's the next step up, which are cover songs or re-records, where the artist has been replaced by someone, a random singer, but the song integrity is still there, meaning the written word, the lyrics, the actual, the actual music of the song is still there. And then the third, of course, is songs by the original artist. So to answer that question, unfortunately, it doesn't apply to virtual because covers, you still have the written word and you still have the publishing. So you still have to acquire a synchronization license from those parties. You have to get, in every song, the way I like to say it is there's two parts. I mean, there's more than two, but in a general sense, there's two parts. There's the person who sang the song and the company that represents that artist who represented that song, which is the record label. And then there's the person who wrote the song, and the company that represents them is the publisher. I look at a record label as a marketing company, and I look at a publisher as an accounting firm. Publisher collects money for the writer. Record label, they promote the artists. They spend all the money on creating the album and stuff. If you eliminate the one piece, which is what Muscle Mixes does, and have only the one piece, which is the writer publisher, I'm trying to think where you would save. You save, you don't save in virtual, unfortunately. That's the best way I could say it. So the reason why I said there is some truth in that is because Muscle Mixes, we're able to sell cover songs on a mix a lot easier and a lot more affordably than if we were to use the original artist. The original artist is always harder to get. They have to get approvals by the artist, whereas there are some set laws in place for the writers and publishers. I know. I'm hoping I'm not confusing matters even more.
Yeah, no, I would
stay away from covers. Stay away from anything familiar if you're going to use, and if you're going to press the record button, or if you're going to put virtual workouts on social media. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, very insightful, first of all. And it's one of those things, I almost say the same exact thing when speaking with instructors. Just go to the areas that you know that you're going to be able to utilize. Don't even spend time like, can I potentially use it? No, just take that out of your mind.
I know.
It's not worth it.
It's hard. I know.
Yeah, it's very, it's tough. But again, there's great music that or companies like yours, Muscle Mixes, that are putting out. And over the last year, and I think this is going to be pretty interesting to hear, because we know how some pros businesses have shifted and having to go to your website a couple of times for a variety of things that we've had to work on with Fitness Fest when you and I were working with the conference stuff. How have you guys shifted actually over since last March, almost a full year ago? How have you guys kind of shifted some of even the pages on there, or even some of the wording? Has a lot of that been just a constant every single month?
Well, yeah, we've changed completely. Well, we used to, for example, get calls maybe once every 3 months for somebody who says, hey, I'm shooting a video, or I'm doing an on-demand channel. Can we license your music? And it used to be $300-400 for a 60-minute mix for that. Now we've developed packages to make it super easy for instructors and for health clubs to be able to. We have unlimited packages where for $629 a year US, you can purchase our pro package and be able to record unlimited videos for the whole year and post them everywhere, including on demand, for 1 year. And it's a good price. And you get to pick anything you want, and you get to use our app and create mixes with it and that kind of stuff. So that's a new program that we developed. We had to act fast, we were shuffling around just like everybody else at the beginning, like, holy, what is going on, so we did that. And then we have another package for businesses too. But yeah, that's what we created, the pro package.
Wow.
And they've been loving it. Every Fit Pro has been just loving it because they get to use unlimited music for one price for a whole year. And people are creating a lot of. Do you feel like people are doing more? I know I'm not supposed to be asking the questions. Do you think people are doing more live streaming or on demand? I'm just curious. What have you seen?
That's funny.
I mean, is it like 50-50, would you say?
I got to say the joke first, because before we started recording this, Denise said out loud, I got to make sure that I'm not doing the interviewing. And let's see, it took...
it's really hard. I can't help myself. Sorry about that, Tyler.
25 minutes in, and she asked me the first question, but
That's right.
It's okay. But
I'm just curious. Do you think? What do you see more, on demand or?
I honestly think there's more emphasis on demand. There are a lot of instructors, and I think this has actually shifted since. So we launched in September, and I would say that it's shifted towards a lot more instructors doing more live because, and this is one instance here, but when we launched, we took the approach to not actually have, or to utilize a platform that does not show the people watching on the other end. And that was because the instructors that I had polled, that I had spoke to, they were like, yeah, the classes that I'm leading, that I've been leading for the last few months, nobody has their camera on. I barely even see anybody. Maybe they come on at the end. They're like, hey, great class. Okay, bye. But other than that, but lately when I've spoken to instructors, they say, oh, everybody has their camera on. And I was like, oh, I'm surprised. So I think that there's a shift that it's almost like a roller coaster, I feel like, in terms of sometimes this is how it is in the industry, and then it shifts a couple months later. I would, in my approach though, if I was starting a business, I would say that it would be wiser to emphasize the on-demand because of all the factors that go into streaming. It's such a hard process, and that's something that you and I have talked about. And it's something that if an instructor doesn't have a background in it, and they got to know that there's so many different paths they can take, and even when they stream from day to day, there could be things that pop up. Your internet connection, your devices. I just had something like that happen today with the instructors where I had to go basically troubleshoot before to make sure that the music was on the same, or that the music and their microphone line were both coming through. Things like that just pop up, and if you don't have that background, it's a process. So in terms of routes, and even for a business, that's why I think many businesses only offer small amounts of live streaming, because it's such a process, and that they can control more things in the on-demand library, that they can have it recorded, then they can go back and edit it as much as they want to make it look a certain way.
I know, it's so great. And I'm hearing instructors also say that they've been enjoying, they're enjoying the virtual.
Yeah.
And they're also enjoying that income stream, why, if I'm hearing instructors saying, I'm going to go back in person, but I might as well have an option for people.
Yep.
Because not everybody wants to go out when it's cold out or there's snow on the ground, or not everybody wants, So, and again, it's that making money while you sleep. thing, which is what
Exactly.
On Demand provides. And I think instructors, they keep saying this is the year of the instructor. I don't know if you've heard that.
I haven't, but I'd like it.
Yeah, right. Because it's time. We as instructors, I'm saying we because I used to be an instructor, have been dictated by the health clubs for so
Yes.
long in terms of, and I just watched a podcast the other day with Shannon Fable, who was saying, health clubs were like, oh, that's just the group fitness room. Don't worry about it. It runs itself, But without it there, they see such a big difference. I mean, people love group fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Members love group fitness. And without it there, I mean, what a dead health club,
Yep.
So bringing it back in person, instructors, I think, are going to be more valued. And, some people are even making more money, I think, teaching on demand
Yep.
or live stream.
Oh, yeah.
Not that money's everything. Of course, nobody's making it rich as an instructor, but, it's a matter of value more than the money itself, I think. Don't you?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I actually said these items, when was that? 2 Fridays ago and I was a panel guest on Fitness Fest's Fit Pro Connection. And I always debate how in depth I'm going to go when I talk about industry items like those, because prior to these past years, that's why I liked when you said that this is the year in the instructor. Prior to that, if you ever said anything out loud against certain organizations, they would blackball you. And they're not going to either welcome you to their conferences or they will do things that you're like, what? Like, how are you supposed to be leading the industry? And this is the way that you're acting. And I know many people that have had experiences like this. And so something along those lines was that I know, and this is not trying to brag, but I have friends that are directors of education for big gym chains. And they've told me that they're having trouble getting instructors back, that it's hard to convince them to come back because when things stopped, they went and did their own thing, their own virtual thing, and they're making more than before. So why would they come back for less money? And exactly. So if they have that opportunity, that's why we say, if you're an instructor and you have that opportunity to make more money, because no offense to the gyms, and I, like I said, I have these friends that work for them, and I will say that the gyms, they tend to just do what's good for them. And that's nothing, their business, but you often hear many stories of instructors getting the bad end of things. So when push comes to shove, they're probably going to do what they need to do. So if you can continue a model, a virtual model, a hybrid model, and be able to bring in an extra stream, keep up at it, and try to grow yourself in that route. Because if the gym, and we are seeing gyms that do this, that are already starting their own platforms, that started one,
they sure are,
or started one up recently. That's the thing that I mentioned. I saw a big reaction from instructors that were like, right? Like, why are they doing that? Because if gym chains are starting up their own platform, how is that going to make it easier for an instructor at the end of the day?
I know.
How are they going to be able to attract clients when you're saying, okay, just stay home and do our platform? But that just makes them money. But what about you, the instructor?
Exactly.
So it's one of those things that don't make sense. It doesn't make much sense in my head, but when you think from the business end, it kind of does. But that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And going back to licensing, I have seen some instructors that are saying, okay, I'm going to live stream using Zoom, let's say, but I'm going to record it so that in case my student didn't make it, and they could see it like the next day or something. I'm okay with that. As long as it doesn't stay up long, I'm okay. But again, I'm not an attorney. I think you're probably pretty safe with that. However, I will say this. You never know. You might save that for a rainy day, and that rainy day may be on demand, of all that video, all those classes you were producing for the whole year. If you save them, you better make sure you've got the right music on it, royalty-free music on it, because you may later on, maybe every third class record and keep it, like maybe do 3, live stream that you don't record, and then, the fourth one record, so you can start building your library slowly. Why not? I think everybody should have a library at this point.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if they don't start doing it now, it's like, building your IRA, your retirement fund. I mean, put something in that, that retirement fund or that fund, to start building. I mean,
Yeah.
by now, it's a year later, who your very loyal participants are, who loves you, who's willing to follow you everywhere. And that there's instructors like that. I know I have my favorite instructors that I'll follow everywhere. So I would say, start your on demand. If you want to go on vacation, it's there for that. Right.
Yep.
Because I mean, what do you do if you're all of a sudden and a virtual instructor and you want to go on vacation? Do you just stop everything, the week you're gone? That's not going to work.
Yeah.
At least in a club, they can go to a different instructor during that week.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's good business tips right there. Very good.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to our podcast takeaways here, Denise. And this is pretty general. Okay. But it's one of those things that it's always good to hear different perspectives from different fit pros, because we all have different experiences. You shared yours at the beginning, how you were an instructor, then this thing came along. You're like, oh, I like this. And you created muscle mixes, and you've been in the industry for a lot longer than me. And it's always great to hear how the guests view things moving forward. So what are your thoughts on the fitness industry moving forward in general?
Okay. I think I talked about it a little bit, but I'll expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see that both the gym and the instructor are going to have a virtual option, a supplement, to what they're doing. I think let's not fool ourselves though. There will be a resurgence of the in-person classes. Mm-hmm. People will be going back. This is my prediction. Will be going back in droves, dying to go to their favorite class in person, see people, hug people, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. When it's going to happen, I don't know. I mean, I think there's still some people that are either not going to get vaccinated or are still afraid even with the vaccine or don't believe in it or whatever. There's always going to be a group of people, I believe, that will continue to stay home and take classes Zooming and stuff like that, or with an on-demand solution. Mm-hmm. But I think once that in-person comes back, we'll be back. We'll be back in the gyms. We'll be back. It may not look the exact same way. Maybe 50%. It might be 30%. 25%, depending on what state you live in. Virtual is here to stay, and I believe the hybrid model is going to be the ruler of everything, because you got to have both. Like I said, for vacations, some people that are older adults, they can't always get up and out the door quickly. Some people carpool. The weather affects everything. It's so nice I've been Zooming every day. I take a class every day on Zoom. I love rolling out of bed and just, throwing something on, and who cares what my hair looks like, and I get in there. Mm-hmm. And this is also going to be true, by the way, for regular companies, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine people have been working from home for a year. How can they go back full time in person? I mean, unless you're a restaurant business or some kind of service oriented business. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a shift not only in the fitness industry, but I think just a mindset of, I want less stress in my life. I don't want to have to put on makeup, wear the perfect clothes, and rush out the door, drop my kids off to school, and fill my my car with gas. And mm-hmm. I think it's a little, in my opinion, because I look at things a little bit on a positive side.
Yeah.
This is a shift towards taking care of yourself, a little bit better self-care.
Yes.
If I can't make it there in person today, I can, maybe relax a little bit in the morning, drink my coffee or my tea, and then work from home the rest of the day. I had this happen the other day with my daughter, 14 years old, who is in person, but she had a tummy ache in the morning on Friday. And the tummy ache lasted for a couple hours, and we just looked at each other and said, just stay home, mm-hmm. do it from home. She was able to log on. Wow. And that was it. Wow. They gave her the option. I don't know if they're going to continue that come September, but it was kind of nice. And why push a person? I didn't want to push her. She didn't feel well. Mm-hmm. Of course, I could have been snowed over, Tyler. I mean, it could have been a big, big acting job she did on me. But anyway, so I believe that what's happening in the entire world applies to fitness. And that is that we as a people are going to combine, we're going to have more of a hybrid lifestyle. It already happened in the movie industry. You know, you're not going to the movie. Some people just wait. I would say a lot of people wait till the movie ends up on their Netflix or Amazon, right? Now, me personally, I'll never give up going to the theater because I love it. I love the whole experience. It's something fun to do.
Me too.
It's date night, you know, whatever, right? It's a big screen.
Yep.
But I also like sitting on my couch and watching it too. But it's the same thing with coffee. I mean, we could go on and on. I can make coffee every day, or I can go to Starbucks and they just add a little more sugar and a prettier cup. So I think that's what's happening. It's already started with Peloton. Peloton kind of started that, and now Apple Plus. But that's where I see the fitness industry moving toward. And the thing that's going to be challenging, just to add one more thing to that, is instructors that do teach virtual. You can't teach everything. You can't be a spinning instructor. You can't have Monday spinning, Tuesday circuit, Wednesday Pilates, Thursday kickboxing, because you're not, you know, not every instructor is great at everything. So that's why it's better to, I think, to just have some on demand, have a library of on demand, maybe do a few live stream and then go in person. That's what I would do if I was them.
Yeah. All that, a lot of great insight, and I think a great way to frame it in your mind. And so some people that listen, they might know that I used to work for a company called Nesta, and that's how I got into the education side of the industry. And something that I got started off early on in my career was working from home. And it's because everybody worked from home for this company because it's a way to save money as a company as a whole. But the trick of it is that you have to have your routines. You have to have your schedule because at home, it's much easier to be like, oh, you know, man, I'm just going to sleep in a bit. But if you have your routines and you have that part of your life down, you could utilize that time in a very positive way. I've always been someone that works out from home. Every shutdown. I have a very nice home gym, and I grew up always kind of having one. Even when our first apartment that my wife and I had, it was a very small garage, but I still had one, and the equipment was not as nice as the equipment I have now, but I still I had it, and it was always a way to save time in my mind. Instead of that 15-20 minute drive to the gym, I can now just walk into my garage, and now I have that time to spend either warming up more, or I can apply it somewhere else in my life. So the way that the positive spin that we're talking about now is just a way to either take care of yourself more, apply that time in other areas. And I think that this past year showed that you can do more from home. Of course, there are the mental aspects of seeing people engaging, interpersonal skills, all that kind of stuff. But for fitness, exercise, there's so many benefits for it. And for Fit Pros, I like how you've constantly stressed that it's such a great option to have that on demand, having those for when you do need to take a break, go on vacation, all that kind of stuff, because they can apply that immediately to their business. One more item that I'm going to throw in there because it's something that picked up in my mind from when I was on a show with for Kelly Coulter's show. Hers is the Fit Pro Connect show, and she was talking about the individuals. So if you're a fitness pro and you're like, oh, but all these big companies are gonna push me out, but there are so many individuals, and I forgot the exact percentage of the percentage that does go to the gym to work out, but I know it's not a big percentage. I feel like it's in the teens, or maybe 20s, maybe. But there is a big population of people that don't have any intentions of going to the gym or becoming a member. So if you can find these individuals and find a way to tap into that population that do need to exercise more, that do need some help, some guidance, you're going to be fine. But that is the trick, though. How do you find those people?
Yeah, how do you find them? Yeah.
No,
that's great, though. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's 80-20. I think it's that 20% that don't join them, gym.
Yeah. Well, Denise, before we wrap things up, can you share some information for the listeners on Muscle Mixes, how to find out information, and also your social media channels?
Sure, absolutely. So please go to our website at musclemixes.com. It's musclemixes.com. We have a lot, sign up and join our email list, because we have a lot of specials that we let people know about pretty frequently. We also could be found on Facebook, and let's see, I should know this by heart, shouldn't I? But I don't. It's Muscle Mixes Music, at Muscle Mixes Music on Facebook, and the same thing on Instagram, at Muscle Mixes Music. You can always email us, hello@musclemixes.com. We love to help answer questions, whatever it may be. And I'm hoping that Tyler here is going to help me with some of the technical questions that they ask about equipment. Because that's where we get stuck sometimes. But if we don't have the answer, we'll help find somebody who can give you the answer, whether it's about licensing, about music, about pricing, about anything that you may need. And we sell downloads, album downloads, physical CDs, if you can believe it. And of course, we have an app and some really wonderful virtual music programs too. So yes. Check us out.
Definitely. And if you're listening to this episode and you've seen people comment on Facebook groups, instructor groups saying, "Oh, what are you guys using?" There's a reason why Muscle Mixes is constantly being dropped in there, because it's useful and it works, and it's easy for instructors to utilize. So check them out. All those steps that Denise just mentioned, go there, check them out, drop them an email, all that kind of good stuff. Denise, thank you again for being a guest on the KIPS Personal Trainer Application Podcast. A lot of great knowledge shared for something that has been talked about for the last year. We still hear people guessing on items, and it's such an important topic.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It was my pleasure. Really wonderful. I love helping out fitness pros any way I can.